Hey, what's up? This is Trey Pierce, audio engineer,
digital director,
director of financial planning and analysis,
senior creative director of A&R,
program director, morning show host,
and you're listening to the Springboard
Music Podcast.
Well, I mean, in general, my role is to whoever my client is, whether it's an artist, musician, or an author, whatever, is to give that project that they've created exposure in the media. So whether that's television, TV, national radio, like talk shows, newspapers, magazines, websites, a lot of podcasts, but it still always involves the press, the media, and your client, those two coming together.
You guys, today's interview is with the incredible owner of the media collective, Velvet Kelm. The Media Collective is this fantastic PR company, and they have an incredible roster, such as Amy Grant, TobyMac, Kathie Lee Gifford, Connick Jr., Annie F. Downs, Ainsley Earhart, and she graciously took on the Springboard Music Podcast to announce our launch earlier this year. So amazing. Velvet and I met several years ago while I was still working at the label as TobyMac's radio representative. And so we had several meetings together. And when it was time to launch this podcast and have somebody in the entertainment PR space, I immediately thought of Velvet, and she so wonderfully said yes. So without further ado, please turn your attention to this wonderful interview with Velvet Kelm. Teenager Velvet, what was she doing? Was she into sports? Was she into music? Was she into writing? And where did you grow up?
So I was born in Oceanside, California, which is just north of San Diego, and was in Redondo Beach. So I was about, 7 or something. And then I was in Tucson, Arizona through high school. And I did love music. I was kind of the token 80s. Loved Duran Duran, loved Thompson Twins, loved Def Leppard, still do.
Yes.
I even liked Quiet Riot. I was kind of into all the 80s stuff, hardcore for sure. I wouldn't say I was into writing that much yet.
Did you ever think that I could totally do a career in music? Or what was the pathway for you when you were in Tucson in high school?
I don't think I thought about it then. I don't know that I was thinking about a career at that point, but I did love music. That was kind of my thing. My bedroom walls were completely surrounded by, I forget even the names of the magazines that I read at the time, but the teeny bop ones, with the posters in them that you pull out. My walls were covered. I'm sure my mom loved it.
I also had Tiger Beat all over my walls with different era, but I as well had magazines everywhere of musicians that I just loved.
Tiger Beat, Teen Beat.
Yes.
There was one called 16 or something like that. Maybe. I don't know. But yeah.
All of those with the posters folded up that you could pull out and just paste onto the wall. So come graduation from high school, what did you do? Did you go to school? Did you work? Were you I'm going to take a gap year and just live it up? What'd you do?
I was going to go to a state school, which was in Tucson, the University of Arizona. And then through some crazy experiences in the early summer, after I graduated, I ended up going to Oklahoma Baptist University in Shawnee, Oklahoma, about outside of Oklahoma City, which if you knew me at the time, you would not have expected because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I was I'm going to be a fashion designer. I still know nothing really about fashion. I had no idea. I just was kind of I'm going to go back to California or I'm going to go to New York. That's kind of was my mindset. And so the fact that I ended up in Oklahoma was kind of interesting. But it was a God thing. There was a very clear path and direction that was there, and through some close friends that had gone there, and so I ended up being there. But because of it, and because of its smaller environment, I still like music. I was still into that. They started bringing different Christian artists to the school to perform. And I was writing like reviews and such for the school paper, concert reviews, record reviews, whatever, and just kind of got into the business side of it more. It kind of clicked pretty fast once I started doing that. And then my junior year, I visited Nashville, loved it. It just kind of another click thing. It was just like, I love this place. And ended up coming back that next summer doing an internship at Star Song Records.
Cool.
And quickly learned that I did not want to go back to Oklahoma, mostly just because I didn't want to leave. I knew from conversations with the label head then, Jeff Mosley, who runs Fair Trade Services now, that I would very likely have a job after graduating. And so I transferred to Belmont and finished school and worked at Star Song in publicity part-time through my senior year.
So you transitioned right before your senior year. Was that scary with credits? And like, what did your family think about that?
Well, fortunately at the time, like Belmont was a perfect situation because it was, I forget what the terminology is of like the numbers of schools, like how they rank themselves or whatever.
I don't know either.
But Belmont and OBU were a match as far as transferring. And so I was pretty much able to, I didn't have to add a lot of classes, but I added a few. I had to switch some things around, but they were just pretty simple to transfer everything and graduate on time. That was my goal. I was like, I don't want to be in school longer doing this. Right. And so it was kind of weird because I was working so much and all my friends that I started making in Nashville were not in school. And so I barely knew anybody I graduated with, which was kind of weird. It was, it was hard to leave like the friends that I'd made because, college is so fun and you do make great friendships. And it was strange to kind of leave this place and not graduate from there. But I was just driven. I was like, this is where I want to be. And this is where I know I'm supposed to be. It was real clear. My mom would even say that too. I think when I went to college and then when I left to go to Nashville, it was just like, yep, this is where I'm supposed to be. It was very clear to me. And when you have you're in the city you want to live in, you're making friends and you get an experience like I did. The woman that was running the PR department at Star Song at the time had a baby, I think a month into me being there for an intern. And so I kind of was like trial by fire. Like I kind of had to just jump in and figure stuff out and learn things right away. And I just really liked it. So
did writing come naturally to you? Was it like a skill that you were just like, I guess like, I could do this?
Yeah, I did. When I was like growing up, I would always write stories and stuff, but nothing professional, just kind of a hobby. So I did love writing. And then so my major was journalism with a PR emphasis. And then when I switched to Belmont, it had to change a little bit, but it was still basically that. It was just called something else. But I did like writing a lot. Mm-hmm.
At that time, it sounds like labels had PR in-house, whereas, my experience at a label, that was not the case. Is that something that's still happening, that PR is in-house, or is that more like not? How has it transitioned over the years?
It's changed a lot because I ended up being at Star Song for almost 8 years and running PR. And then when EMI bought Star Song, I was in the Sparrow system for about, I think it was 9 months maybe. And they in-house PR. And then I went and did management for a little bit and then came back and started the company that I have now, the Media Collective. And I think during that time, it was the early 2000s timeframe, things did sort of seem to switch a lot. They still have a lot of in-house PR in the mainstream music industry, but they do hire out a lot still as well. But all I know is I've stayed really busy since I started doing it on my own. but I do think it's more uncommon in the Christian music industry for sure to have a PR department.
Did I read somewhere on your on the about page for the Media Collective that you purchased the agency? Is that what happened?
Yeah. So what I did is when I left management and was kind of like trying to figure out what my next step, I met with a guy named Mike Kyle, who had run the marketing division at Star Song when I was there. And I'd met with several people, actually, kind of friends in the industry that I'd known for a long time. Kind of what would you hire me for?
Yeah.
And everyone came back to PR. So I was like, okay, that's not what I was going for, but I guess that's what I'm supposed to do still.
What were you going for?
I don't know. When I left and did management, I was just kind of burned out,
Yeah.
just kind of tired. And, it was management was a good experience for me, just to kind of give me the other side of the, lens, so to speak, of just getting the artist perspective and management perspective outside of working for a label. But now, obviously, I'm glad that I went back into PR. But I think at the time I wasn't sure. But it became pretty clear when everyone that I met with said, "Yeah, we definitely would hire you for PR." So,
Yeah.
but Mike kind of gave me legs, and so to speak. He had a marketing company called the Resource Agency that he was like, "Hey, why don't I'll give you a salary, but you can kind of start your own thing and have your own clients, but that way you don't have to worry about, the money coming in right away." So It was
Wow.
pretty amazing. I mean, it was, to this day, it was a gift for sure, because, my confidence wasn't 100% there yet to do something completely on my own. And friends over the years had said stuff to me before about, "I bet you'll do something on your own before." And I was like, why would I do that? And so when Mike did that, he had a few clients that I did some PR on, and then I immediately started working with several people that I'd worked with over the years, and it grew quickly. Very quickly, within 2 years, I was kind of like, I probably should just do this on my own. There's really no reason to do it, under another umbrella. And I think Mike kind of knew that was coming. He just was kind enough and great enough to give me that, kind of umbrella, so to speak, or just the safety of that situation at the time. And so, but actually, and then I still rented space from him. So I still stayed in his building. I just rented space from him.
And were you competitors then at that point?
No, because he didn't really work in music. He was more in the publishing side of things with marketing and other areas. So they didn't really do a lot of music business stuff.
Okay. Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That could have been really awkward.
Yeah, no, it wasn't awkward. He was always amazing. Yeah.
How long from when you graduated from Belmont to when you started up the Media Collective?
Oh gosh, 10 years.
Okay. So you had already built up like a Rolodex and a network of contacts. So
yeah, from being in the Star Song system and doing PR because that was, a good 7 years or so.
mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah.
When people hear PR or publicist, I think everybody has this idea of promoting something in a written form, but a lot of it is on TV now, and a lot of it is on podcasts. So how have you seen it change over the years? And what exactly is it that when somebody says PR or publicist, what are they doing?
Yeah, it's changed a lot over the years. Well, in general, my role is to whoever my client is, whether it's an artist, musician, or an author, whatever, is to give that project that they've created exposure in the media. So whether that's television, now it's lots of things, but originally it would have been TV, radio, national radio, like talk shows, and then newspapers, magazines. now that's obviously, there's still radio and TV, but there's a lot of online websites, a lot of podcasts, a lot more, digital options now. But, so for me, that means, without getting like too like nitty gritty, it's finding ways to make those outlets interested in what I'm telling them, what I'm trying to sell to them, so to speak. It's coming up with the story angle. To me, that's the most fun of any PR campaign still, is the story. It's hard for me to like take on something if I'm not excited about the story that's there. When that comes from songs, that comes from obviously books, what their messages are, what happened in that artist or author's life to create that song or situation. I love telling stories or helping tell the stories of someone else that's things that have happened in their lives and stuff that helps other people or encourages them or just makes them happy or whatever. So to me, it's all about telling the story. Obviously, there's kind of the basic stuff too with records or books, is getting reviews. Although there's less reviews nowadays than there used to be, it seems like, for some reason. But I don't know if that's answering how you want to answer it.
No,
but
you're doing great.
but it's really just, it is exposure. There's all different things that you do as a publicist. In addition to that, whether it's red carpets, but it still always involves the press, the media, and your client, and those two coming together. It's interesting sometimes because you want your relationships with your clients to be super strong, but your relationships with the media need to be strong as well, and they need to trust you. So it's definitely both sides are almost as equally as important.
Yeah. Relationship is king in this
Right.
industry. Absolutely. How many clients do you feel like you can serve well at one time? Because it sounds quite busy.
Well, and it changes based on my staff situation too, so that can fluctuate depending on that, really.
Yeah.
And so over the years, it's definitely fluctuated for sure. Right now I'm doing it solo since COVID, just kind of have stayed, I have another PR friend that we share projects sometimes, which has been fun, just to kind of have somebody else to work with.
Yeah, it feels like a team.
Right. Because I always had a team up until like right before COVID hit,
Okay.
and so since then it's just kind of been easier to kind of maintain it like this. Doesn't mean I'll always keep it this way. I may bring back a team one day. But right now it's been a good situation, and having this other friend, her name's Jules, to kind of work with sometimes is fun. So for right now, I would say probably 2 to 4 at a time.
Yeah.
It just kind of depends, because I do have several clients that are like kind of long-term, where I am like on maintenance with them, even if there's not a project, so there's always kind of stuff that can pop in and happen. But like maybe say like an actual campaign, 2 to 3 or 4 at once.
I'm curious too, because obviously what you do is dependent on somebody else saying, yes, we'll promote that. So how does the industry of PR measure success? And is it different from how you measure success?
That's a good question. I think industry sometimes tends to measure it, by the bigger hits that you get, which
meaning
is
like Billboard or
like
Morning
a Billboard
America,
or Good Morning America, or
Tonight Show,
some of the bigger Christian TV outlets like 700 Club, or USA Today, just the ones everyone knows of and has heard of, and that's success for me as well. I mean, I of course like to get the bigger stuff, but I also think for me success is telling someone's story well and finding, whether it's a podcast or a radio show or whatever, to tell it well, and then there's a connection between the talent and the media that just really clicks, because I've had clients come back from an experience maybe with a media outlet that's not massive, good still, but maybe not massive, but it was just such a good interview that they really appreciate that. I think in the end, I want the big hits, I want the big numbers, but I want the client to feel like they have not only worked with someone that's worked really hard to get them good press and a lot of press, but the best press and the quality stuff that fits them, because not everything will fit every person, so you do have to tailor it. So I think just them feeling like I know who they are and I know their story well, and I've partnered them with media that have done a good job telling their story or sharing their music or their whatever.
That's an excellent point, because I think I haven't thought a lot about certain media meeting a certain storyline, right? So like when you say not every piece of media is going to fit every story, can you give me some examples of like, well, this media is probably better for this type of story?
Sometimes you'll have a client that, where a situation a life event will happen that is not related to obviously maybe their project that they have coming out, but you are obviously needing to communicate with the media about it for them. And so that's where the trust factor comes in, especially if it's a sensitive topic. You want to make sure that whoever you do have report on a story, or actually a lot of them will report on stories regardless, but if your client's actually going to do an interview, you want to make sure that it's someone will respect their space, will respect their personal situation, and will do a good job with it, obviously. But the trust factor is huge in that respect. So it can vary, when there's something personal like that happens, you're usually doing fewer interviews, but you're very focused on, okay, who are the ones that I trust to handle this story respectfully and well. And so those are the ones you go to. When it comes to maybe more of like a general campaign, whether it's a book or a record or whatever, music, it kind of depends too, like who the audience is. Like I've done a lot of children's books recently. I do music stuff all the time. And then I've done, some other books, but I think and that's one thing that's nice about the way the media world works right now. There's so many options with podcasts and radio and everything, TV and such still, that you can kind of tailor it, so if it's a children's book, you're going to go to a lot of mom or parent type publications and podcasts, radio shows, whatever, to help you tell it well. So I think that kind of helps in a sense too, because you can really target the demographic based on the publication.
How do you formulate a pitch? Are you just like, here's kind of what we have coming down the pipeline. You want to bite?
I mean, a lot of it is communication from the talent and kind of hearing their heart and knowing what it is they want to say. You can, obviously you listen to the record, pay attention to the songs, read the book, and gather your own thoughts that way. But it is kind of putting down your core, kind of, these are my main angles based on the stories in these songs or what the message of this book is. And then from there you say, okay, that'll fit with XYZ, outlets. So you have to know, some outlets are kind of generic and they'll cover every book you put out or every record you send them. But then there's some that are much more targeted, that meet a specific audience or demographic that you kind of have to tailor the pitch a little bit more for. Because sometimes you'll go to, a certain outlet just because there's a certain story and even one song. but you can be like, this story was told in this song and it fits what you do, so they'll cover it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
So you kind of put it together that way. Really, it's getting everything you can from the talent and what their priorities are, and then seeing where the matches are.
No, that makes a ton of sense. I'm sitting here thinking, like, what you do takes relational skill, takes writing skill, takes really like big picture skill to be able to like look into the details and then like give an overarching theme. So if somebody's listening to this episode and they're thinking, man, I love projects. Like I love books, I love podcasts, I love movies, I love music. I would love to do what Velvet does. Who would be a good fit for that? Like, what skills would they need? And how could they go about like gaining experience in high school or college where they are now?
Generally, I would say it takes someone that is fairly outgoing. You don't have to be, completely extrovert, but you definitely can't mind talking to people and communicating with people. Organization is helpful. Just you're kind of juggling a lot of things at once, whether it comes to creating campaigns, implementing campaigns, writing press releases, having bios written. There's so many different things that come into play, so that you have to kind of juggle all at once. So I would say you have to be pretty decent at multitasking, and being able to kind of handle several things. As far as preparation, high school's changed a lot since I was in high school. I actually think there's a lot more kind of college prep stuff that happens now than when I was in high school. My oldest son is just now getting into high school, so I don't have a lot of personal experience with that yet. So I don't know how to answer the high school question exactly. But I can definitely say with college, well, I'll back up. In high school, if you go somewhere where they have a program where you can sort of, like I recently heard about a program where high school kids can actually, juniors and seniors can actually do internships and sort of and there's and meet with different businesses or whatever that they might have interested in, just to kind of feel out what they think they might want to do, so that when they do go to college, they're a little more prepared, and maybe they pick a major when they're a freshman that fits, and they, do it for 4 years versus getting into college and taking 2 years to kind of figure out what they want to do, which I thought was brilliant. And so, so if there's something like that in your area that you know about, I would definitely try it. Why not get a head start? But as far as college goes, I would say, you got to pay attention to your strengths, obviously, but you also need to pay attention to your passion and what gets you excited. What do you like spending your time doing? I loved listening to music. I loved writing. I loved, finding more out about artist stories. And I was always the one that would scour the lyrics and read the articles. Like I just like kind of digging into it. So I think even when I knew I liked that, I didn't actually know necessarily at first that would be a publicist role. That can be more than just a publicist role. That could fit with management and several, label work too. But the writing part, I think, and just wanting to communicate it fit well, obviously, with PR. So I would say, when you're in college, internships are really key. I was an intern. Obviously, that led to a job for me. I've hired lots of interns. I think probably 60% of the people I've hired have been an intern.
Wow.
If
That's
not more.
Significant.
Yeah. Because you can really prove or not prove yourself in an internship, and I would too. You learn a lot more than you realize in internships, because sometimes you are doing the grunt work, but you're around and you're exposed to other things, and if you work hard enough at the stuff that might not be as much fun, that shows. You're there to learn and prove yourself. So just kind of having an attitude of learning and wanting to learn. And
Yeah. I
yeah,
think the key for an internship, because nobody expects an intern to come in with all of these skills and knowledge at all. And so I think the key of an internship is really about showcasing attitude,
definitely.
showcasing energy, positivity, like a can-do mentality.
Yeah. Or what can I do? Like if you,
Yeah.
you know, just that whole attitude of like, okay, I did this. What else do you have for me? Or, hey, I noticed this. What do you think about blah, blah, blah? You know, I mean, just kind of taking some initiative, you know, goes a long way.
Yes, I completely agree. And when I was at a corporate label, like we also would majority of the time hire our interns because it is, like you said, for you, it's like a trial run.
Right.
I'm curious, you work with so many industries, which has to be a blast. You've been doing this for over 20 years. Would you say that you're living the dream?
I would say for the most part. I mean, obviously every job has its moments or days where you're like, you know, but I don't think I would have kept doing it for so long if it didn't, you know, wasn't exciting and you didn't get pleasure from it, you know. So, and it's changed so much. I mean, it feels really different now than it did when I first started. Our industry's changed a lot, you know. So it is a dream in a lot of ways, you know, because you get to work with really talented people that are putting great art out. You're helping to tell their story. Yeah, I mean, I would say it's not as, you know, glamorous as a lot of people think it looks, you know, like it is, you know, but I think with anything, if you're doing things that you do well, but things that you love and you're passionate about as well, then it's, you know, it makes the days that are a pain less painful.
Absolutely.
You know?
And you're kind of
So,
working with friends. The more that you get into
yeah.
it, the more you're building that network.
Yeah.
Last question. What is a piece of advice you would give to high school or college students who have made it through this episode and they're like, okay, I love what Velvet does. I want to do that. What piece of advice would you give them?
I would say pay attention to what you love. Pay attention to what drives you and makes you excited, you know, wakes you up in the morning, so to speak, which I mean can be a little different when you're in high school, obviously, but just, you know, when you spend your time doing certain things, whether it's, you know, like hobbies, what are your hobbies? How, you know, what do you want to spend your time doing? That should kind of be like a light bulb of, you know, if it is like it was for me, if you like writing, if you don't have to be a good writer to be a publicist, but if you, it helps, it helps,
Yeah.
but if you like certain, it doesn't even have to be music, but like say you really love TV and movies, like you could go into that, you know, area of PR. PR exists in every form really. So if you like sharing what you're excited about with other people and trying to get them interested in what you like, that helps a lot. That's kind of PR. You know what I mean? So if you're excited about something and you like telling people and you always are trying to get everybody around you to be interested in that too, you might like PR.
Thanks for listening to the Springboard Music Podcast. If there's something that resonated with you in this episode or an episode that you would like for us to create in the future, please do not hesitate to reach out to us at Springboard Music on Instagram.